It's the Saturday show, 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Next to me is Alex Napoles. We've got Parker back behind the glass after a weekend off last week. Let's talk some Utah football. Alex, big game tonight at home against TCU. Of course, the big news of the week, though, it's a new era for the Utes officially as Cam Rising is done for the season. This is Isaac Wilson's team now. I don't want to spend too much time on this particular topic because it's been hammered all week, but what are your initial thoughts on that?
Unfortunate for Cam. Unfortunate for Cam Rising. And I mean, unfortunate for the program in general. Just because I feel like for the last two seasons, there was a lot of promise with this team.
Yeah.
There was a lot of...
Well, they were supposed to run the Big 12, remember?
Exactly. And now I think we're just forever going to think, what if, right? What if Cam Rising was healthy last season? What could they have gotten a three-peat in the Pac-12? What if Cam Rising was healthy this season? Could they have really ran the Big 12, right? And I mentioned this a little bit last week, Christian, but I feel like Utah and maybe the fan base was at a point where everybody was so caught up in trying to recreate 21 and 22, where you do get those back-to-back Pac-12 championships, you make those Rose Bowl appearances, that you kind of got stuck in the past and you didn't allow yourself to grow and move forward. And now I think with this news that Cam Rising is out for the rest of the season, you allow the program to move forward. You allow the program to grow with a true freshman quarterback and allow Isaac Wilson to grow.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, it's always going to be a what if, and that's so hard as a sports fan. I mean, we've all got our what ifs, right? With our favorite sports teams, and those were such magical seasons that Cam Rising was able to put together for the Utes, and he did so many good things, and it just really it absolutely guts me to watch his career end the way that it did, or at least his Utah career presumably end the way it did. The interesting thing is he is likely going to be eligible for an 8th-year red shirt, and that opens the discussion is does Utah bring him back?
I don't think they should.
You don't think they should? Do you think they would?
It's a possibility.
It always will be, right?
And it's always going to be a possibility, but truthfully, again, just back to what I said earlier, you got to allow yourself to move forward.
Yeah.
You got to allow yourself to grow. You got to allow yourself to start this new era, to start the Isaac Wilson era, and start building for the future of this program, because who knows, right, where this team and where this program is in 4 years when Isaac Wilson's a senior. But right now, obviously focus on the right now and give Isaac Wilson this opportunity to learn, to grow, to figure it out. And I think it will really pay off down the road once we're talking senior year for Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm just thinking about this situation really bums me out, dude.
It does.
I mean, last week, another ugly loss for the Utes, 27-19 against Arizona State. And Cam Rising, we talked about it last week, so we don't have to talk about this particular loss, but just watching him put his body on the line and just continue to get beat up and get hurt, it's sad. Like, it really was just sad to watch and sad to think about. And I know that Kyle Whittingham, it's his job as the head coach to get these guys to move forward and move past it. And we talk about overcoming adversity, and that's what championship teams do. And they've definitely got the right guys to do that. And I think the biggest thing for this Utah team is they need to realize that it's more than just Cam Rising. Like, yes. I get that he's a great leader and he did so many good things for this team and for this program and really put Utah on the map nationally. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But this team is more than just Cam Rising.
And I think when you look at that Baylor game, right, when he goes down, it seems like the team forgets that when he's not on the field.
No, it's not just the Baylor game. It was every game.
Right. and the team forgets that, and it is more than just Cam Rising. And now you have to figure out how to be a successful offense without Cam Rising. It's going to come down again to giving Isaac Wilson this experience and allowing him to learn, to grow, and be on the field. And as a true freshman, right, there's going to be mistakes. We've seen the turnovers. We've seen the picks. We've seen, him go a whole quarter without making a completion. But it's going to be part of the growing pains of figuring out who this offense is with that true freshman quarterback.
The good thing, though, obviously, is that, again, as I mentioned, this is Isaac's team now.
Yeah.
And that has to be reiterated to him every day. He's a young quarterback. I mean, a year ago, he was playing high school ball, right? A year ago, he was talking about Lone Peak cheerleaders. It's the jump in competition from Corner Canyon High School to the Big 12. It's obviously a big jump.
It's a huge jump.
And I get that he graduated early so he could play spring football, and I think that was ultimately a great decision that's going to pay off this season, especially considering all this other stuff. But now you have the security of knowing, hey, this is my job now.
Yeah.
They can move on from Cam, and that's the biggest thing, is just moving on and having the trust from the coaches from Monday all the way up until Saturday night or Saturday afternoon or whenever they play, week in, week out. I can't imagine how hard it's been for Isaac Wilson every single game to be like, okay, I'm playing today. I don't know what's going to happen next week. And I don't know what the practice situation had been like as far as splitting reps with the ones or whatever. I don't know if there's been a week where Isaac Wilson has got all of the reps with the ones. And maybe there has been. I could totally be wrong. I don't know what that situation is like. But now I know that he's going to get all the reps with the ones. Now I know that there's not a threat of, okay, if you don't play well, Cam Rising's going to come back and we're going to lose you. And we don't care about that. I think now Kyle Whittingham and this coaching staff gets to kind of change their mindset and say, okay, we got to put all of our eggs into Isaac Wilson's basket, whether that's turning this season around. And again, there's still a chance for them to make a run at the Big 12 title. They only have 2 conference losses. It's astronomical odds. They have to win out. They have to beat BYU. They have to beat Iowa State. They have to beat the top 2 teams in the conference right now. But there's still a chance. It's still a possibility.
Yes.
So that is still on the table. Or it could just be more about, Isaac Wilson is our guy, not just for this season, but for the next 3 years after that.
Right. And you bring up a really good point where not just us, we know that this is Wilson's team, but I think it's super important that now the players know that this is Wilson's team, right? It gives you more of an idea, right? More of a, I guess, security that who's going to be under center, who's going to be the guy to lead you, and people and receivers can adjust to that, right? The O-line can adjust to that. Instead of having this limbo of, oh, is it going to be Cam? Oh, is it going to be Isaac? I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
And so it does give you that little bit of sense of security that you have your quarterback. You know who you're going to be fighting for. You know who you're going to be playing for. And I again, like you mentioned, it's not over for Utah. You have to rely on a lot of teams helping you out.
Yeah.
And you have to win out. But at the same time, why not do both? Right? Continue to try to bounce back, try to right the ship, continue to try to find a way to make it to that Big 12 championship game, while obviously developing and building this offense with Isaac Wilson.
Yeah, that's a very underrated aspect of it, right? It's not just Isaac Wilson knowing that he has the trust from the coaches. It's not just the coaches having the trust in Isaac Wilson. It's everybody. It's the center knowing how the exchange is going to go. It's Brant Keithy, Dorian Singer, Money Parks, and knowing what the timing is going to be like on the routes, knowing how fast the ball is going to come, knowing what the spiral is going to be like on the throw. Mekhi Bernard, knowing where the ball placement is going to be on the handoffs. Like there's so many little things that can differ between two different quarterbacks, and just the entire team knowing, okay, this is Isaac Wilson's team now this week, next week, and the next however many weeks after that. Like that's huge. That's big. And it's great. It's great that they can just finally turn the page, and it really is a crappy close to a really unfortunate story that had some amazing highs, and it's such a bummer that it has to close on some really low lows, but at the end of the day, it's time to move on, and that's what Utah's doing.
Yeah.
And I am really curious to see what they look like tonight. I think that they could be kind of reignited. We might see some fire in their guts a little bit. Not just from that, but I mean, defensively, it sounds like Karene Reed might be back. Connor O'Toole might be back. Those would be such huge additions for a Utah defense that has really been struggling. So it would be big to have those guys back.
Absolutely. And I think we kind of talked about it last week a little bit, Christian, where, defensively, this Utah team hasn't been up for it either. And you really missed your leaders like a Karene Reed. You really miss a leader like Connor O'Toole. And so it would be huge to have those guys back and available for you. But this TCU game is super, super, super important, super critical for the Utah season, right? And it's kind of weird to think about that. We're talking about a 3-3 TCU team being such an important game for Utah to go out and win. But I mean, they have to, right? Because what we're talking about is you have to win out and to get help from other teams to make it to that championship game. But I think more importantly, you don't want to look too far ahead, and you just want to focus on this game and make sure you win this game. Make sure you go out there and you figure out your offensive identity. You make sure you go out there and you look better on defense. And I think that will help out not only ease some of the frustrations and some of the worries of the fan base, but obviously allow yourself and position yourself to continue to be competitive in that chase for the Big 12 championship game.
This week is the most important game for the Utes.
Yeah.
After that, the most important game is the next one at Houston.
Yeah.
And after that, the most important game is at home against BYU. And after that, and after that, and after that, it's a week-by-week thing now for the Utes, and they've got to continue to get better and better every single week, and the potential's there. I mean, we know it. We talked about it, and especially, again, mentioning guys like Karene Reed coming back, that's big, because not only is Karene Reed such a big leader, such an important leader, such a good player for this defense, but it also does things like make things easier for guys like Lander Barton.
Yes, and I think Lander Barton has really missed Karene.
Yeah, it's been very clear. I
Yes.
mean, Lander was a guy that we were all high on. I mean, how high did he rank in Hands on Scotty's 60 and 60? And he has not lived up to those expectations this year. But a large part of that is because he's having to do so many different things that he doesn't normally have to do because of Karene Reed not being out there on the field.
I think Lander and Karene complement each other really well. And no disrespect to Jonathan Hall, who I thought has stepped in and shown some really good signs.
Yeah.
But
they make things easier for each other.
Yeah, but it takes a while to build kind of that chemistry and kind of that familiarity, right?
Yeah.
With a guy stepping in. And so I think Jonathan Hall has done a really good job stepping in. However, there was a lot of plays and a lot of moments in that Arizona State game where I think Lander was trying to compensate a little bit for trying to basically do two people's jobs, him and what would have been Karene's job. And so we do need to see a little bit more from Lander, and I think it will help with Karene if Karene is back in.
Well, from Lander's side, knowing that you got a star next to you in Karene Reed, I mean, it just allows you to put blinders on and focus on your job.
Mm-hmm.
And
it goes back to the confidence.
Yeah.
It goes back to the confidence. The same thing we're talking about the offense in having that confidence and having that and knowing Isaac Wilson's going to be the guy. You can basically say the same thing about Lander and Karene.
Yeah, and I just want to see Lander make some plays.
Yeah.
Because that's something that we haven't really seen this year. So I'm looking for a big bounce back from Utah as a whole. Let's see if their defense bounces back. But the unfortunate thing, Alex, if they don't do it today, I don't think it happens. This is the pivotal game of the season for the Utes. I think this is the make or break game.
I would agree. Because I mean, you look at the grand scheme of things, and if Utah falls to TCU tonight, you're looking at
Three conference losses.
3 straight losses, just in general for Utah. 3 straight games, which I can't remember the last time Utah lost 3 straight games. And obviously, you kind of put yourself out of that conference race.
Oh, yeah.
With a loss. Plus,
you still have to play BYU.
Plus, I can't remember the last time Utah lost 2 games at home in a season.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's just kind of, if Utah doesn't win tonight, I hate to say it, but that,
that's the nail in the coffin.
That's the nail in the coffin.
For sure.
Yeah.
Crazy to think just how differently things have gone for this Utah team compared to what we were expecting, but that's how it goes, right? Nobody's ever right in the preseason.
I mean, you look at the preseason rankings from, for all the teams, right? And all the top teams that we were supposed to be contending are towards the bottom. And then the teams that were at the bottom, like BYU, who was picked to finish last in the Big 12, sitting at the top and sitting pretty.
So just to reiterate kind of this conference race with the rest of the season, the second half of the season on our plates now, Utah is at home today against TCU. Next week they're at Houston. Then they have a bye before they're at home against BYU. Then they're at Colorado, at home against Iowa State, and then at UCF. So the 2 ones to circle there are, of course, the BYU and the Iowa State game. Those are the 2 teams at the top of the Big 12 right now, both undefeated. There is a possibility that if Utah wins out, they're playing BYU in the Big 12 title game.
Boy, that would be a fun title game.
And again, I don't want to hype this up yet because those odds are really low right now.
we got a long way
based
to go.
off of what we've seen. We've got a long ways to go, but it is still alive. And the good thing is, I mean, if Utah wins out, that's their tiebreaker, assuming Iowa State drops another game, right? They would have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Iowa State. So that's a positive there. But, I mean, if Iowa State's only loss of the season comes to Utah, that, of course, doesn't really matter. But it's going to be fun regardless. Well, this has been a really fun season for the Big 12.
Absolutely, and we talked about the unpredictability in that top segment. But I mean, look going back to Utah schedule and looking at kind of again their outlook. One, they have to win out. They need some help from other teams if they want to make that championship game. But more so, you look at that stretch where you go BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, and that's going to be a really tough stretch, considering what we've seen from those teams up to this point, right? And so now we look at this TCU game as being a critical game, not only for your season, but to build that confidence. And now you look at that Houston game again to build that confidence heading into that BYU, Colorado, Iowa State stretch. Utah needs some good performances and some good wins to build that confidence to allow you to head into that stretch feeling good about yourself.
Does Utah get back on track tonight at home against TCU? It's a night game, Alex. 8:30 kickoff, 7:30 pregame here on the Zone. That's going to be on 1280, by the way, tonight, 1280 a.m. So 7:30 pregame with Lloyd Cole and Christian Cox leading up to kickoff. Then, of course, after the game goes final, we have the post game here as well. So we'll see. Big game for Utah tonight. We got to hit a break. On the other side, we'll talk about 5 minutes of a little bit about everything. Ourselves playing tonight, Utah Hockey Club playing tonight as well. So we'll hit that next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. Alex, it is time for 5 minutes of so much to talk about. Not enough time. They only give us 2 hours. Can you believe it?
I know. I mean, it makes sense.
I wouldn't give myself more than 2 hours.
I wouldn't give myself
either.
another hour either, but no, it's fine. I love this 5 minutes. 5 minutes of, so then that way we can kind of hit on a bunch of other topics that we need to touch on for the day.
Let's start with the Utah Hockey Club. They return to the Delta Center tonight after a 4-game road stretch. Went pretty well, Alex, considering some of the teams they played. They started at the New York Islanders, then they played the Rangers, then the Devils, and the Ducks. They beat the 2 New York teams, the Islanders and the Rangers, Rangers was a nice win, 6-5 in overtime. Rangers were a playoff team last year. They made a pretty deep run. But then they lost their last 2 games of the road trip, 3-0 to the Devils. And then in hockey, you classify it as an overtime loss, I believe is what they say. So that is different than a regular loss because you still get a point. It's a point system like soccer. So anyways, I believe 7 points in a 4-game road trip.
Yeah, and we said 2 to 3 wins last week was going to be a good road trip, and look, they hit that
2
mark.
wins, yeah.
They hit that mark.
Returning home against the Bruins tonight, there are going to be a lot of Boston Bruins fans there. They're one of the most popular teams in the NHL. I remember going to even just the Plaza celebration before the opening home game. Just a lot of hockey fans there, right? And they show up and they're wearing, a lot of Blackhawks jersey because that's who they're playing. But there were a lot of Boston jerseys just because, again, they're a popular team. They're one of the original teams in the NHL. So this is going to be a big game for Utah. I'm expecting, of course, the Delta Center to be sold out. I'm expecting it to be rocking, but big test for the hockey club, especially defensively. Their defense has not only been struggling, allowing 4 goals to the Islanders, 5 to the Rangers, 3 to the Devils, then 5 to the Ducks. They lost defenseman Sean Dursey for about 4 to 5 months, according to head coach Andre Tourigny. There is hope that he'll be back for a potential playoff run. They didn't classify this as a season-ending injury, but he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, and that sucks because the defensive line was already really thin.
That's a big loss on the defensive side of the ball, the puck. And look, you just want to continue to see the hockey club make strides. They obviously huge wins against the New York teams, right? A big win against the Islanders, big wins against the Rangers, as you mentioned. You just want to see them continue to build on that, and especially here at home. Boston, like you mentioned, super popular team, a good team in hockey, and you just want them to go out there, have a good performance, and hopefully kind of figure some things out on the defensive side, right?
Yeah.
Figure some things out on defense and work on conceding less. I think for the most part, I've really liked what I've seen from Connor Ingram. Now I just want to see a little bit more from the defense.
Ingram is back in the net tonight. Vajmalka played, I believe, against the Ducks, and he did okay. I mean, he allowed 5 goals, but they weren't all on him. Again, that defense really struggled. And another blow for the hockey club's defense is John Marino, a player that they acquired in a trade in the offseason. He was supposed to be coming back soon, but apparently his injury situation worsened. I don't know the specific details, but he is allegedly, quote-unquote, months away from a return as well. So 2 of the top 6 defenders for Utah Hockey Club out for a while, and that's going to be rough. It is a good thing that they traded for Mikhail Sergachev. He's going to be the leader of this defense for now.
Yeah, and Sergachev has looked good.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you look at, the way I look at hockey and the way that I've kind of just seen from the first couple of games is defense is a huge deal, man. You got a good defense, you got a really good shot in some games, and so like we were mentioning, lean on Sergachev and try to just figure some things out defensively and look better defensively because you got to concede less. It's not obviously the offense for the Utah Hockey Club right now is playing really well. They're high scoring games, and so the offense is putting up some points for the hockey club, but you got to clean up defensively because allowing 5 goals per game is usually not going to get you the right results.
Yeah, and I think the last 2 games of that road trip are why we see people like Ryan Smith and Bill Armstrong, the GM and the owner, pumping the brakes on playoff expectations a little bit. I mean, they're the guys that are running the team. They know more than anybody else. They know that this team has limitations. They have deficiencies in big areas, mainly defense, right? So I think they want to get out ahead of things and make sure that fans are not disappointed if this team does not make the playoffs, because the reality is they are still a very young team. I mean, they're going to be allowing a lot of goals, not necessarily because they're bad on defense by any means, or not because they have a bad goaltender. I think Connor Ingram has played really well. It's just the reality of being a young team and still trying to figure things out. similar to the Jazz team. And we'll see if this is one of those scenarios where you can turn a young, rebuilding team into a winning team over time, or if it's a team that, they lost and lost and lost, and they can't figure out how to turn that around. So that's what this season is for the hockey club. And we do have to temper expectations. It's going to be fun at times. They're going to make a lot of noise. They're going to be really good some games, but then there are going to be games like against the Devils where they get shut out 3-0, and it's not very fun.
I think right now, obviously temper expectations, but I do hope that this, what is a 2-game losing streak doesn't continue to snowball into a really long losing streak, right?
Yeah.
I hope that they just come into Delta Center, play a good game, and bounce back. Get back in the win column, and then go from there.
3 home games in a row, tonight against the Bruins, Tuesday against the Senators, and then Thursday against the Avalanche. That's going to be a fun game because that is presumably going to be one of their rivals, of course, because of geography and stuff like that. Let's switch gears, though, Alex. Let's talk RSL. They're wrapping up their regular season tonight at home against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Haven't seen RSL play since October 5th, so it's nice to see them back on the pitch tonight. Do you think RSL wraps up their season with the win here?
I like their chances at home. A lot riding on the line for Real Salt Lake, Christian. We kind of hit on it last week. There is the international tournament prospect on the table for Real Salt Lake. If they can pull off a win and get some help from other results around the league, they will secure a CONCACAF Champions Cup spot and play against some of the top teams in North America next season. Aside from that, seeding on the line, LAFC and LA Galaxy have clinched 1 and 2. Right now, the highest Real Salt Lake can clinch is the 3rd seed, which would probably help them with home field advantage down the line. And that's what's at stake for Real Salt Lake. Plus, obviously, Chicho's still sitting at 17 goals. Want to get him his 18th. Cheech. We need his 18th. And so, yeah, man, looking forward to tonight. Also, for anybody listening, if you're heading out to America First Field tonight, Damir Kreilach back in town. The longtime captain, the legend, they will honor him prior to the game, so make sure you're in your seats early to help celebrate Damir Kreilach and his accomplishments with Real Salt Lake.
Make sure you bundle up as well. It's going to be cold.
Oh, yeah.
But if Chicho does get that goal, make sure you're loud because he deserves it. And I know America First Field will be rocking. You talk about needing some help from other teams, though, Alex. Seattle is that team that RSL is tied with for 3rd place. They play Portland tonight, so that is the game that RSL fans are going to be watching out for. As far as seeding and stuff. If RSL pulls off the win tonight and Seattle loses, then RSL will be in 3rd place in the West.
Yes, that is correct. They'll be in 3rd place of the West. We need some help from Portland, and we need some help from Philadelphia over on the East Coast playing FC Cincinnati. If Philadelphia can find a win against Cincinnati in the overall standings, Real Salt Lake will be above Cincinnati and Seattle, and that's where you get the Champions Cup berth.
Lot on the line for RSL, and this is a point that we've continued to hammer over and over again, but I want to see this team return to what we saw in the late spring.
Yes,
I mean, they
absolutely.
were on a tremendous run led by Chicho there, and then the suspension hit, the All-Star break hit, the international play hit, and they just grinded to a halt.
If I remember right, it was 14 straight unbeaten, sitting at the top of the Western Conference. That's the Real Salt Lake they need to get back to as we get ready for playoffs. Man.
And if they do get back to that, they have a genuine shot. I'm not even being a homer here. They have a genuine shot at winning the MLS Cup.
Absolutely. If they can get back to that, they were the best team in the Western Conference for a minute there.
Yeah.
In that stretch. And if we can get close or anywhere near that RSL team, they'll have some good chances in the playoffs. I do believe that Real Salt Lake will host Houston in the first round. So that one will be tough, but we'll see.
Let's switch gears again. Let's talk NFL. Alex, we've got a lot of fun games tomorrow. I can't wait. Starting off, the Lions and Vikings is going to be so much fun. The Vikings are undefeated, coming off a bye. They should be back to near full strength, and then the Lions are coming off a extreme butt kicking against the Cowboys. I mean, they were running trick plays up by 25 points. Like, how disrespectful does it get? And I'm here for it, by the way. So that's awesome. I think Seahawks-Falcons is going to be fun. Texans-Packers, two of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Who else do we have? Chiefs-49ers in the afternoon window. Ravens-Buccaneers, Monday night. A lot of fun games this week.
Absolutely, man. It's a big slate for the NFL this weekend. We have the Super Bowl rematch, as we were just mentioning, Chiefs 49ers, as Parker fist bumps behind the glass. We have the Patriots Jaguars in the London game. I'm very interested to see that Packers Texans game, as you mentioned, the battle of the young quarterbacks. Jordan Love, former Utah State Aggie, and CJ Stroud, who I think has looked really, really good.
Yeah.
And then Jaden Daniels, man, for the Commanders, taking on the Panthers. Hope that Jaden Daniels can just continue the hot streak that he's on, because he has looked absolutely phenomenal. Big games coming up on Monday, too. I like the Ravens-Buccaneer matchup, and then you got the Chargers taking on the Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't like that they're doing a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. I get, like, early on in the season when there's no buys, but we don't need 2 Monday night games. I don't know. It's a little weird. Give me another afternoon game, I'd say. Because right now there's only 3 afternoon games tomorrow. Raiders at the Rams, Panthers at the Commanders, and then Chiefs at the 49ers. I don't know why they load up on so many morning games and then 3 afternoon games and then 2 Monday night games. That's weird to me. While we're still talking NFL, I do want to talk about Rashid Shaheed for a little bit for the Saints. Real bummer of a situation there. He was on a hot streak to start the season. Rashid Shaheed, if you don't know, former Weber State receiver. He hurt his leg. He hurt his knee last week, went in to have it scoped, and going in, they were like, okay, we're going to scope it out. We're either going to repair it, and he's going to be out for the year, or we can clean it up a little bit, and he'll be out a couple weeks. They ended up having to repair it. So Weber State star, former Weber State star, and current New Orleans Saint Rashid Shaheed out for the season. That's such a bummer to see, because he was on a real tear.
Yeah, even though, through the last couple of weeks, the Saints kind of struggling, I feel like he was a bright spot on their offense. Even with, him and Derek Carr were making some phenomenal connections, as Shaheed was using his speed to get down the field, to get open, and make huge plays for the Saints.
20 catches for 349 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was a deep threat. One of those guys that can score on every play.
Absolutely. Gut-wrenching for him, man, especially considering the season as he was having. Hope for a full recovery, and hope we can see him back on the field next year, man.
Man, that Chiefs 49ers game. I don't want to keep talking about it because Parker's got a little smirk on his face, the Chiefs fan in there. Do you think that the 49ers get some revenge, or do you think the Chiefs figured things out coming out of a bye?
Man. This matchup is going to be so fun. The Chiefs, I don't necessarily think they're at that level that we saw them at last season, right? I think that they've gone away with some. They've gone away with looking average at times.
Yeah.
So I hope that the 49ers can take advantage of that, but I do think that some way, somehow, the Chiefs will be able to pull it off. I'm going with Chiefs in this one.
They figure it out. They always seem to. Okay, I'll pick 49ers.
And we'll see who gets it right.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Again, a lot of fun games. We're in the thick of it here. So, yeah, I really hate the Chiefs.
And we haven't even had a chance yet to talk about Davante Adams and the Jets.
Oh, yeah, Davante Adams to the Jets. How could we forget about that? Well, I know how. Well, so they're the Sunday night game tomorrow. First off, the Steelers are starting Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Instead of Justin Fields, which is a weird situation. Justin Fields has led them to a 4-2 record. It's obviously working. I don't know why you would mess with that. But Davante Adams to the Jets, not a big surprise. It's a nice weapon for Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to help their offense, but it doesn't solve their issues of having a bad line. Davante Adams can't go out there and block for Aaron Rodgers. He can't go out there and kick field goals. So it doesn't solve their biggest issues.
Yeah. No, 100%.
But we're not surprised. We all knew this was coming.
Yes, we all knew it was coming. The second, he was quote-unquote out with the hamstring, and, there was things went sideways at the Raiders. We knew he was going to link up with Rodgers. It's one way or another. Happy to see that duo back, though.
Yeah,
I think it'll be fun to kind of reminisce about their old, Wisconsin days, and
they did a lot of special things in Green Bay, and I do think that they're gonna have some fun moments in New York. But again, I think it's too little, too late. I don't think it's going to necessarily make them a threat in the AFC. It might help them sneak into the playoffs. We'll see. But they're 2-4. Like they're behind the 8 ball right now. They've got a lot of work to do if they hope to make the playoffs. But, Davante Adams, he's 32. He's still really good, though. He's still one of the top 10 receivers in the league,
He's in the right place.
And his hamstring was never hurt. People are going to say, oh, he's coming off a bum hamstring. That's not real. He was faking that to get out a plane for Vegas. Obviously. You should know this by now.
Christian, what's going to be the bigger and the more impactful trade? Is it going to be Davante Adams to the Jets, or is it going to be Amari Cooper to the Bills?
I would like to think Amari Cooper to the Bills. My issue with this is Amari Cooper leads the league in drops right now.
True.
And that could be a factor of he really hated Deshaun Watson, but he's struggled with drops throughout his entire career, whether it was with the Raiders, with the Cowboys, with the Browns before Deshaun Watson got there. So that's always been a thing. But... and I'll say this about Davante Adams as well, it never hurts to add a good player to a good offense.
Absolutely. And I think for the Bills, they're kind of missing that wide receiver one.
Certainly. It worked for a couple games.
Yes. I do like the whole spreading the wealth and getting guys involved and trying to get some of these younger guys coming along, especially in the case of like Keem Coleman. But I do think that the Bills need a wide receiver one, and I think if Amari Cooper can show up and be that guy, I do think that this Bills offense looks a lot better.
I'll say it's definitely going to help my fantasy team. I have Amari Cooper, and
how you doing in fantasy this year?
Well, I've got a lot of teams. I've got some good, some bad. The one that has Amari Cooper on it has been bad, mainly because of Brandon Ayuk, I would say. It's one of those really frustrating things where it's like, okay, I'll play him because this is the week where he's going to go off. And then there's 1 week where I'm like, okay, Brandon Ayuk, you're in timeout. You're getting put on my bench. Then he goes off for like 22 points.
Yeah.
So then I played him the week after and he was back to scoring like 5. Yeah. I hate it.
That was me with Drake London last year.
Oh, yeah. Well, Drake London's doing really good this year.
He is. He's doing good this year. Happy for that.
But, I am excited to see how the Bills perform. With Amari Cooper. The Bills play the Titans tomorrow, by the way. So Amari Cooper is going to be active for Buffalo. Davante Adams active for the Jets. So there we go. Alex, let's wrap this thing up on the other side of this break. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Wrapping things up with the Saturday Show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Utah State football coming up here soon, Alex. We've got a 2 p.m. kickoff for the Aggies, 1 p.m. pregame. That's going to be on both signals, 97.5 and 1280. I'll be producing. Hopefully the Aggies can get back on track. I mean, they had a really hard start to Mountain West playing Boise State and then UNLV back-to-back, the two top teams in the conference. And those two teams in particular are far and away like much better than anybody else in the conference right now. So Utah State playing New Mexico today. I really like their chances in this one to get back on track.
I think both of these teams, right? You look at Utah State, you look at New Mexico. They're, I think, two teams that have a lot to prove today. This is a New Mexico side that's 2-4. Bronco Mendenhall's first year at the helm. It's there's a lot on the line for both teams, right? Who can right the ship? Who can pick up this win and correct their course? Utah State, right? Just the one win. They desperately need win number 2. New Mexico just trying to string along some results and get some good footing in conference play.
ESPN has this over-under at 77 points. It's going to be a shootout. Jalen Royals and Jack Hestera last week each had 10 catches for 150 yards. So Utah State can put up numbers.
And in the last 2 weeks, New Mexico has gone over 50 points.
Yeah.
So,
and their defense has not been able to stop anybody, much like Utah State's defense. So hence why the projected total is so high. Again, we've got the Utes playing tonight. Crucial game at home against TCU. That is an 8:30 kickoff, 7:30 pre. Also on the zone schedule for today, RSL first kick is at 7 versus Vancouver, 6 p.m. pregame. And then Utah Hockey Club at home against the Boston Bruins. That is a 7 p.m. puck drop, 6 p.m. pregame. The hockey is going to be on streaming only, by the way, today because we have so much else going on at the same time. So that is our schedule here at the KSL Sports Zone. All-day coverage as always. Be sure to tune in first to Utah State kicking off against New Mexico coming up here in just over 2 hours. One more thing.
we got our predictions and hold ourselves accountable for that Utah game.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, we did talk about we got to do more predictions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you going, Christian?
I think Utah is going to take this one. I think it's going to be 26-18.
Oh, okay.
I think the defense comes out on top of their game. I don't know if Isaac Wilson can break 30 points with the Utes. Maybe he can, but the offense might have a learning curve. 26-18.
I think this is a game for the defense. Look, TCU can score points. There's no doubt about it. Defensively, they struggle. I think this is a game where Utah figures it out defensively, and Utah comes in with a 24-20 win over TCU tonight.
Okay, really close.
Yeah. That's going to be mine.
All right, lock them in. Lock them in. Parker, you got a prediction? No prediction from Parker. I think he agrees with us, though. I think we're all going to hope that the Utes can pull this one off tonight. We'll see. We'll talk about it next week. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.